What is going on, everyone? It is me, the Lone Vault Wanderer, and I'm here to talk about Dishonored 2. This is a game, of course, that had a huge showing at Bethesda's E3 press conference. Arguably, it was probably the highlight of their conference, I'd argue anyways. They're coming out all guns blazing with this game, putting a real heavy emphasis on it in terms of marketing and advertising, and I couldn't be more excited because I love the original Dishonored game. I was a bit of a late bloomer with that game, I only had played it last year, but nevertheless, I really liked it, I speak highly of it, and I can't wait to actually pick up and play Dishonored 2, especially because of the hype that Bethesda is placing around this game. So much so that I actually pre-ordered the collector's edition for like $190. So I probably shouldn't have done that, but I'm just really excited. And I wanted to make a discussion video as to who I actually wanted to play as in Dishonored 2. If you didn't know, in Dishonored 2 there are actually two protagonists. One, Emily Caldwin, and two, Corvo Atano. And after playing the prologue of Dishonored 2 as Emily, you can decide to either continue playing as Emily or pick Corvo for your playthrough. And because of this, I've been thinking in my head who I actually want to play as first when playing Dishonored 2. Of course, I'll eventually play as both protagonists, but in terms of my first playthrough, I was tossing around in my head who I wanted to play as. Do I play as Corvo, who was the previous protagonist in Dishonored 1, or do I play as Emily, someone that we haven't played as yet in the Dishonored games, but nevertheless still had an important place in terms of the lore and the story of Dishonored? And after thinking about it for a while, I think I'm going to be playing first as Emily Caldwin, and there's a few reasons for that. First of all, again, we've already played as Corvo. While Corvo in Dishonored 1 wasn't a voice protagonist, so playing as him in the second game would obviously flesh him out a bit more as a character, let us get to know him a little bit more. I still played as him in the first game, so definitely I would like to mix things up. I would like to play as a new character, just to see how Dishonored plays from the perspective of Emily as a different protagonist, as someone different that we haven't played as before. And secondly, on a related note, I just really want to play as Emily because of her story and because of her upbringing. If you didn't know what happened in the first Dishonored game, I'll give you a spoiler alert warning right now. Do not continue in this video if you want to be spoiled about what happened in the first Dishonored 1, but please play that game because it definitely is totally worth it. One of the main reasons I want to play as Emily is because her upbringing was so interesting. At the start of the first Dishonored game, effectively her mother was killed, Emily was kidnapped, and it was all framed on Corvo. So you effectively spent the entire game from the perspective of Corvo, trying to clear your name and trying to save Emily. And periodically throughout the game, you saw Emily, you saw how her behavior changed depending on how exactly you played the game in terms of whether you killed everyone or whether you took a more passive playthrough. But one can't deny that the upbringing and the trauma that Emily went through would just make for incredibly interesting storytelling in the second Dishonored game. Now, while there were multiple endings at the end of Dishonored, it seems that in Dishonored 2, the ending that sticks is where Emily becomes the Empress, and that's where you start in Dishonored 2. So I'm really curious to see how Emily is going to be as a character, because you could play Dishonored 1 in many different ways, and that would affect, as I said, how Emily would be as a person. Specifically, if you have a high chaos level while playing as Corvo in Dishonored 1, Emily's nature does change in the sense that the drawings that she does in the game are a bit more evil and a bit more dark as a result, and if you don't have a high chaos level, then they're a bit more lighthearted and a bit more brighter. So I'm very interested to see what is the canon ending at the end of Dishonored 1, and I think we'll get a better sense of that if we play as Emily. If you had a very high chaos and Emily survives, she sees how Corvo became really ruthless to actually complete the game and complete his quest, and becomes much more of a dictator in her role as Empress. Is that how Emily is going to be in Dishonored 2, or is she going to be a bit more of a wise or good-hearted Empress, if you will? I'm assuming that the way most games go, it's going to be the latter option there, but nevertheless, I'm still really interested to see how her psyche is, how she has developed as a character, how in terms of canon, Corvo acted in the original Dishonored game, and as a result, how that affected Emily as a person. And for the third and last reason why I want to play as Emily first, is because she seems to have a very different playstyle to Corvo. Again, we played through Corvo in the original Dishonored, we know what powers he has, we know how he plays, but we we don't necessarily know how exactly Emily is going to play. We know at this stage that she has very different powers to Corvo. Instead of Corvo's blink, she has a far reach power, which effectively is like kind of like a grapple hook where she can really quickly reach over to far places. And then she has a power called Mesmerize, where she can actually put enemies in a distracted dream state, and Domino, where she can link the fates of multiple characters together in game, and whatever you do to one character affects the others in the exact same way, and we saw some of that in the gameplay at E3. So again, these very different powers, these very different playstyles is making me really curious as to how actually Emily plays and what she's really capable of. I'm really glad that they haven't gone with just a copy and paste of Corvo's powers and Emily's powers. She seems to have her own persona, have her own personality, have her own character design, and that's really appealing to me. And because I haven't experienced that yet in the first game, and because this is all new to me in terms of Emily as a character, that's why I want to play as her first. Then afterwards, I'll play as Corvo to see the perspective of Dishonored 2 from his eyes. But anyways, everyone, I would love to get your thoughts as to who you want to play as first in Dishonored 2. Do you want to play as Emily first, or do you want to play as Corvo for nostalgia reasons? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, this has been Lone. Please take care of yourself, and as always, keep fighting the good fight.